sector chair, session chair, karibuni. So our next session is going to entail presentation of the Agriculture, Rural and Urban Development Sector Budget Proposal. And we have our sector chair with us who is going to take us through. But before that, I would want to invite the session chair, who is the PS, State Department for Blue Economy and Fisheries, to give her remarks, introduce her colleagues, and invite the sector chair to give us the presentation. Welcome, PS.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon once again. Our sector chair, Honorable Jonathan Mweke, the PS for State Department for Livestock Development, colleagues, representatives of the ARUD sector from the State Department for Agriculture, the State Department for Lands and Physical Planning, and the National Land Commission, represented here today by Mr. Timothy Kariuki. Officials from Government of Kenya in various sectors, our guests today, the public, all protocols observed. Good afternoon once again. For me, I don't want to deliberate so much because we have all listened to the presentation that was done by the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning. And we have also listened to the feedback that was given. And one of the key points we have been able to pick is on fiscal discipline. For me, and I believe I speak on behalf of all the accounting officers, both the PSAs, the CEOs of the state corporations, is that all the activities that we want and all the programs that we propose to do for our wananchi, or rather the public, we need to ensure that we adhere to fiscal discipline of the resources that are available. Number two, we know all the priorities we have as a country. And on behalf of the ARUD sector, we know the agriculture, livestock, blue economy, fisheries. These are very key, important sectors that we need great support so that we can be able to empower our people and, of course, create jobs. Therefore, we urge you and we urge everybody in this beautiful country of ours to see how we can be able to continue working together, how we can be able to create innovative ways, and of course, creative ways to be able to grow the sector of ARUD. This is the backbone of Kenya when you look at the agriculture and livestock. But when you look at the blue economy sector and fisheries, is a sector that is the next frontier in this country. We have untapped resources, and the government is working towards ensuring these resources are tapped so that we can grow our economy, empower our communities, and of course, create jobs to our youths, and of course, the future generations. Because our sector chair will come and provide the presentation, I will not deliberate so much on the actions and the plans we have for the sector, but I just want to thank everybody for availing yourselves to this important forum, and I look forward to engagement with you in the next, I believe, 1.5 hours. And I also want to thank my colleagues who have been very instrumental in this process, the PSS, as I mentioned earlier, the 5 state departments, including NLC. Thank you so much. And with those few regards, I want to welcome our chair, Honorable Jonathan Mweke, the PS for State Department for Livestock Development, to do for us the presentation. Asanteni.
Our session chair, Betsy Jage, from State Department, PS State Department for Blue Economy. Colleagues, allow me to ride on all previously established protocols. As you've heard, my name is Jonathan Mweke, Principal Secretary for Livestock Development in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, and the Sector Chair for the Agriculture and Rural Development Sector. I have a presentation today on the medium-term expenditure framework for 2026-27 and 2028-29, which I will present at this public hearing forum on behalf of our sector. Presentation is outlined into 5 sections: the introduction, sector performance review for the period, medium-term priorities and financial plan for the period, emerging issues and challenges, and we will end with recommendations. On introduction, our sector composition is made of 5 subsectors: lands and physical planning, livestock development, blue economy and fisheries, agriculture, and the National Lands Commission. The sector has 4 autonomous government agencies, 31 semi-autonomous government agencies, 4 funds, and 1 appeals board. We have a vision to be a food secure, healthy, and wealthy nation for sustainable socio-economic development. Our mission to improve the livelihoods of Kenyans through sustainable management and development of land, crop, livestock, and the blue economy. Our overall goal is to attain national food and nutrition security, sustainable development, and utilization of land and blue economy resources. The sector objectives are to promote sustainable food production, value addition, agro-industrialization and trade, build resilient food and nutrition security systems for improved livelihoods, strengthen land rights, secure livelihoods and sustainable management of land and blue economy resources, enhance investments and financing for accelerated sector transformation, advance inclusivity and equal livelihoods in the sector, promote, regulate, and facilitate research in the sector, and strengthen sector institutional governance mechanisms. Our sector contribution to the economy of our country: we positively impact the economy through food security, employment, and foreign exchange earnings. According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics Economic Survey Report 2025, the sector contribution to GDP averaged 21.8% between the years 2000 and 2004. As per the CBK, Central Bank of Kenya Agriculture Sector Survey of July 2025, the sector employs 40% of total population and 70% of the rural population. Our sector achievements for the year 2022 to 2023 and 2024-2025 are as follows. We implemented 13 programs and achieved the following: enhanced land rights and access to registration services, which is the issuance of 1,271,000 title deeds, land value indices in 13 countries. We geofenced 358,000 land parcels and settled over 33,000 landless households. We supported agricultural training and research services, graduating over 3,000 students and providing internships to nearly 3,000 animal health graduates. We promoted food security through inspection of over 5,000 milk handling premises and testing of over 74,000 milk samples. We enhanced livestock breeds and productivity, producing over 2.3 million straws of animal semen, and availed nearly 4,000 improved breed livestock to farmers. We reduced post-harvest losses in the dairy sector, increasing the milk chilling capacity through provision of 230 milk coolers. For fisherfolk livelihood support services, we provided over 3.6 billion shillings, a grant to nearly 84,000 fisheries common interest group members. We invested in fisheries landing infrastructure by completing the development, rehabilitation of 8 fish landing sites. We provided agricultural input support, over 1.1 million metric tons of assorted subsidized fertilizers to over 3 million beneficiaries. We also facilitated crop and livestock insurance, benefiting nearly 650,000 crop farmers and nearly 19,000 pastoralists. We supported crop diversification, providing over 4.1 million assorted seedlings. We resolved 339 land disputes and 52 historical land injustices cases, and we processed over 10,000 allotment letters for public institutions. Now we can move on to the sector expenditure analysis. As you can see in the table on your screens, the total sector allocation was 71 billion shillings in the fiscal year 2022 to 2023, and that went up to 96 billion shillings in the fiscal year 2023-2024. And also in the year 2023 to 2024, we had 81.43 billion. Let me just repeat that. The total sector allocation was 71 billion in the fiscal year 2022 to 2023, and 96 billion in the year 2023-2024, and 81 billion in the year 2024-2025. When it comes to expenditures, we were at 66 billion shillings in fiscal year 2022-2023, 88 billion shillings in 2023-2024, and 78 billion shillings in 2024-2025. The next slide shows the trends in subsector allocations and actual expenditure. As you will see, I will just go quickly through the state departments. For the State Department of Lands and Physical Planning, the approved budget was 4 billion shillings in 2022-23. It went up to 9 billion shillings 2023-2024, and up again to 9.6 billion shillings in 2024-2025. In terms of expenditure, it was 4.2 billion shillings in 22-23, 8.9 billion shillings in 23-24, and 9.6 billion shillings in 24-25. For the State Department for Livestock Development, the approved budget was 8.7 billion shillings in fiscal year 22-23, went up to 11.6 billion shillings in 23-24, and down slightly to 11 billion shillings in 24-25, while our expenditure was 7.5 billion shillings in 22-23, 10.6 billion shillings in 23-24, and again went down slightly to 10.64 billion shillings in 24-25. For the State Department for Blue Economy and Fisheries, 7.2 billion shillings in fiscal year 22-23, 10.7 billion shillings in fiscal year 23-24, 11.8 billion shillings in the fiscal year 24-25, while the actual expenditure was 6.5 billion shillings in 22-23, 10 billion shillings in 23-24, and 11.3 billion shillings in 24-25. For the State Department of Agriculture, The approved budget in 22-23 was 49.4 billion shillings, 23-24 62.7 billion shillings, 24-25 46.6 billion shillings, while the actual expenditure was 46.3 billion shillings in fiscal year 22-23, 57 billion shillings in 23-24, and it went down to 44.7 billion shillings in 24-25. The National Lands Commission, the approved budget in 22-23 was 1.4 billion shillings. Then that went up to 1.7 billion shillings in 23-24, and up again to 2.25 billion shillings 24-25. And the actual expenditure was 1.481 22-23, 1.75 billion in 23-24, and 2.254 billion in 24-25. Our priorities and financial plan for the fiscal year 26-27 and the medium term. Number one is to enhance land rights and access to registration services, which is issuance of 1.3 million title deeds and settlement of 60,000 landless households. We plan some public land acquisition for 65 infrastructural development projects, sustainable fisheries and aquaculture services, which is construct Carbonio Regional Training Center of Excellence, in sustainable investment and management of the blue economy, which is to stock and quality assessments, fish value chain development services, construct 77 fish landing sites, 20 in the Indian Ocean and 57 in inland waters. We also plan some farmer input support services by providing over 1.8 million metric tons of subsidized fertilizers to over 5 million farmers and over 130 metric tons of assorted oil crop seeds. We plan to reduce post-harvest losses by installing 500 milk coolers in collaboration with our counties. We plan to provide agri-credit services to over 17,000 MSMEs and incubate over 4,000 youth. We will also promote livestock productivity improvement services by producing and distributing over 3.3 million doses of bull semen and over 210,000 doses of goat semen. Under disease management, we will produce and distribute 150 million doses of assorted livestock vaccines and carry out a mass vaccination of over 52 million sheep and goats against PPR disease and over 22 million cattle against foot and mouth disease. Moving on to the next slide, where we will compare total resource requirement versus allocation by subsector. Here you will see that in almost all the financial years, there's quite some under allocation. For the State Department of Lands and Physical Planning, approved estimates for 25-26 was 10.7 billion. Our requirements for the next financial year in that State Department is 13.3 billion, of which only 10 billion has been allocated. For the projected allocation for 27-28 is 11.3 billion and 28-29 is 11.6 billion for the State Department for Lands and Physical Planning. Under my State Department for Livestock Development, our approved estimates for the year 25-26 is 10.1 billion shillings. Our requirements for 26-27 was 27.9 billion shillings, almost 28 billion shillings, and we got an allocation of 15.4 billion shillings. Projecting 27-28 is 14.7 billion shillings and 15.4 billion shillings projected for 28-29. For the State Department for Blue Economy and Fisheries, approved estimates is 8.2 billion shillings. The requirements for the next financial year, 26-27, is 9.3 billion shillings against an allocation of 7.3 billion shillings. The projected allocation for 27-28 is 5.09 billion shillings, and for 28-29, 7.51 billion shillings. For the State Department of Agriculture, approved estimates for the current financial year, 25-26, is nearly 50 billion shillings. The requirements for the next financial year, 26-27, is 107.3 billion shillings against an allocation of just under 60 billion shillings. That State Department projects for 27-28, 56.9 billion shillings, and for 28-29, 63.6 billion shillings. For the National Lands Commission, the approved estimates were about 3.3 billion shillings in the current financial year. The requirements for the next financial year, 26-27, is 7.2 billion shillings against an allocation of 3.1 billion shillings. The NLC projects an allocation of 3 billion shillings in the year 27-28 and 3.3 billion shillings in 28-29. That was the total resource requirement versus allocation. The next slide just breaks it down into recurrent. Allow me just to read the totals for that because they're included in the top slide of the total. For the entire sector, the estimates were 34.4 billion shillings. The requirements for the next financial year, 2026-27, is 50 billion shillings against a sector allocation of 41 billion shillings. So you can see in recurrent, you also have an under allocation, and the projected allocation for 27-28 is 44.1 billion shillings, and for 28-29, 47.3 billion shillings. In terms of development, again for the entire sector, approved estimates for 25-26 was 47.9 billion shillings, just under 50 billion shillings, against, and for the requirements for 26-27 was 115 billion shillings against a requirement of 55 billion shillings. The projected allocation for 27-28 is 47 billion shillings, and for 28-29 is 54 billion shillings. If you go to program allocations for fiscal years 25-26 all the way to 28-29, this is per program. You can see up there in your screens under land policy and planning, 8.3 billion shillings for the year 25-26. Allocations for 26-27 is 8.6 billion shillings. Another 8.6 billion shillings for 27-28 and 8.8 billion shillings for 28-29. Land Information Management Program, the approved estimates for current financial year is 1.09 billion shillings. Allocations for 26-27 is 93.939 million shillings. 27-28, 1.1 billion shillings. 28-29, 1.2 billion shillings. General Administration, Planning and Support Services, approved estimates for current financial year, 1.3 billion shillings. Allocations for 26-27 is 1.4 billion shillings. Another 1.4 billion shillings for 27-28 and 1.5 billion shillings for 28-29. Livestock Resources Management and Development, 10.1 billion shillings is the approved estimates for this financial year. Allocations for 26-27 is 15.4 billion shillings, 14.7 billion shillings in 27-28, and 15.4 billion shillings in 28-29. General Administration, Planning and Support Services for the Blue Economy and Fisheries, current financial year is 199 million shillings for 25-26. The allocations for 26-27 is 224 million shillings, 236 million shillings for 27-28, and 247 million shillings for 28-29. The Fisheries Development and Management Program, current financial year, approved estimates is 7.9 billion shillings. Allocations of 6.2 billion shillings for 26-27, 4.3 for 27-28, and 3.4 billion shillings for 28-29. Development and coordination of the blue economy, 57.1 million shillings for the current financial year. Allocations in 26-27 of 870 million shillings. 469 million shillings in financial year 27-28 and 3.8 billion shillings in 28-29. General Administration, Planning and Support Services in the State Department for Agriculture, current financial year is 19.6 billion shillings. Allocation for 26-27 is 18.9 billion shillings, 19.2 billion shillings for 27-28, and 22.2 billion shillings for 28-29. For the agribusiness, for the crop development and management program, 24.4 billion shillings for the current financial year, 34.6 billion shillings in 26-27, 30.8 billion shillings in 27-28, and 33.4 billion shillings in 28-29. Agribusiness and information management, 933 million shillings in the current financial year, 143 billion shillings in 26-27, 190 billion shillings in 27-28, and 178 million shillings in 28-29. Agricultural research and development, 4.9 billion shillings in the current financial year, 6 billion shillings in 26-27, 6.7 billion in 27-28, and 7.6 billion in 28-29. Land administration and management services, 3.3 billion shillings in the current financial year. Allocations for 26-27 is 3.1 billion shillings, 3.05 billion shillings in 27-28, and 3.3 billion shillings in 28-29. So the total for the entire sector, our approved estimates for the current financial year is 82.4 billion shillings. Allocations for 26-27 is 96.7 billion shillings. 27-28, 91.1 billion shillings, and 101 billion shillings for 28-29. Cross-sector linkages. Our sector has strong linkages with other sectors through the movement of factors of production, goods and services, including but not limited to the following. The sector serves as a foundational source of raw materials and food, leading to growth in service industries. The sector also facilitates the uptake of industrial products and services, including agricultural machinery, agrochemicals, and credit facilities offered by the private sector. Increased sector productivity leads to higher rural incomes, which in turn boosts demand for services and industrial consumer products. High sector output and income stimulates demand for a wide range of services, including transportation, retail, finance, insurance, and agri-tourism. The sector contributes to job creation within complementary industries and service sectors. Emerging issues in our agriculture and rural and urban development sector. Number one is rapid technological advancement. This necessitates frequent and expensive system upgrades, thus disrupting service delivery. Cybersecurity. A threat to data and information and communication networks of the sector is real. Urbanization and change in consumption patterns. Urban consumers are time conscious and prefer processed foods, thereby elongating the food chains. Geoeconomic fragmentation and geopolitical tensions. Disruptions in import supply chains leads to increase in sector input and product costs. The emergence of invasive and noxious plants, a threat to economic value, to agriculture, livestock, health, fisheries, water bodies, and property. Our next slide highlights the challenges in our sector. First challenge is the challenge of manual records system. Inadequate application of modern technology for digitization and digitalization of records and processes. Land fragmentation as a result of high population growth, urbanization and infrastructure development. Prevalence of diseases and pests. This significantly reduces productivity and results in economic losses to farmers and also to businesses. Climate change, leading to the unpredictable weather patterns, rising sea levels, biodiversity loss, frequent and prolonged droughts, frost, floods, and the emergence of new pests and diseases pose substantial threats to food security and livelihoods. As I conclude, these are our recommendations for the sector. In view of the challenges and emerging issues highlighted, the sector recommends the following. 1, adoption of technology, including ICT and digital systems, e-subsidies, e-extension, e-processes, and digital transactions. This will enhance productivity and efficiency in our sector. Number 2, promotion of sustainable use of land and blue economy resources. Number 3, promotion of a One Health approach. Number 4, promotion of alternative financing mechanisms. And number 5, adoption of climate smart strategies and early warning systems technologies. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, that brings the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, PS, for the good presentation. So before I invite our next discussant, Mr. Joab Odhiambo from Kipra, I would like to maybe know if the representation from the State Department for Lands and Physical Planning, where you are seated at, maybe by show of hands, one of them. Thank you so much, so that you'll be able to take the questions. State Department for Agriculture. Thank you, Director. Blue Economy and Fisheries, I can see the DGs and the staff, so I acknowledge you also. NLC, Mr. Timothy Kariuki is here, and of course the team from State Department for Livestock Development. Mr. Joab, the floor is yours before we go to the Q&A.
So thank you very much, everybody. First of all, allow me to write on the protocol that has been set. Okay. So my name is Dr. Joab Odhiambo from Kipra. So I'm here in representing Kipra in terms of the policy aspect. And we've looked at the report which is there. And as the PS was presenting, there are some of the key highlights which the PS have already presented. So probably because of time, I will try as much as possible not to engage into it. So maybe we can go to the first slide. So as you rightly put it, I mean, this is a huge ministry with lots of state departments, and of course the National Land Commission. So we can go to the first slide. So this is how my presentation will be guided. So the first one is just the overall observation, then we look at the priority gaps, whether it's general, and do some analysis and of course suggestions. So most of the suggestions will be based on policy. Now, as you rightly put it, I want to go to the first point because I think the peers have already elaborated that. So we have to, when we were looking at this, we have to make sure that we compile it based on some of the constitutional principles, whether it's Article 43, 1C, Chapter 5, and of course the first schedule. And as we work for the government, this must also be linked to the medium MTP4, and of course we take it through also the better agenda. And of course, as we look, all these budgets must be aligned with the global development agenda. And that's why I'm saying, as we look at it more in terms of the policy angle, whether the SDGs, and now we look at it in terms of all the SDG 2, 1, and of course that. And of course the agriculture deals with all these, whether it's SDG 2, 1 or 11. We can go to the next slide. Now, these are some of the general observations when we Thank you very much. Now, this is some of the observations that we made. So, for example, the first one is to take consideration for regional and international development agenda. And we looked at some of the policies which are existing, for example, the AU agenda. So even as we do our budgeting process, we have to ensure that we link them into the existing policies. And also there's another consideration that we need to take into is to how do we align this with the devolution, especially when it comes to CIDPs and ABT, the County Integrated Development Plans. And then there's also potential of contribution of food security, whether you talk about rural development and policy reduction. Issues to do with backward and forward linkages with other subsectors. We also noticed that as we were looking at it. Then there has to be ratification of several conventions which are made. So we have to be focused on this. And then I think the PS did not highlight this. These are huge element in the room, pending bills. And it is something that has to be dealt with. And I think when the CS in the morning was talking about this is something that we have to look into. So we looked at the sub overall in terms of agriculture, and you rightly put it, it contributes a lot to our GDP. And we have to appreciate this attempt to increase allocation. If we look at the trends from 2023, 2022, 2023, there is a general trend of trying to increase, and as the PS was presenting, there were cases where there's an attempt to, when you're doing the budgeted, from what is allocated and what is approved. So for example, and in terms of the pending bills, which was something that we need to see how we are going to deal with, it rose, look at how it rose from 2022, 2023, it rose to from 7.6 billion to around 12.5 billion in 2024. And this, of course, the reasons inadequate exchequer provisions. And we pick this as one of the most important issues that has to be addressed. Of course, we are going to give solutions to it. Some of the challenges and emerging issues that we looked at, for example, limited access to an inadequate infrastructure, technologies. I think the PS has talked about how we are going to incorporate technologies, issues to do with pests and diseases are some of the recommendations. And of course, rapid change in the use of land, the fragmentation aspect of it, and of course the budget constraints, and of course weak enforcement of the law. Now, we looked at some trend analysis, and this is very important as an institute because evidence, as we look at how from what we allocate versus what's absorption, and you can rightly put there is an adequate attempt in terms of what is allocated and what is absorbed. So you can go to the next slide. Now, in terms of sub-sector pending bills, which I think we wanted to highlight, look at from 2022, 2023, and up to 2024, 2025, you can see the increase in terms of the pending bills. And this, of course, will hurt the economy in terms of, and also the service delivery in these key sectors of our economy. So this is something that we noticed, and it needs to be addressed going forward. Then next slide. Now, this is just a sneak peek of the State Department and of course the National Land Commission in terms of how much do they have. And in terms, it totals almost, for example, a State Department of Lands and planning, you can see the list, but the elephant is in the room when it comes to the livestock. I think PS, this is must be your State Department. There's something has to be done there. There's also the State Department of Agriculture, because this is because of location, so this has to be addressed. Then we go to, I think, some of the key issues that we mentioned. Next slide. Now, some of the suggestions that we've mentioned, and I think these were also brought from the recommendations from the PS. You could see in one of them to increase sector funding and also to leverage on PPPs. I think now with the directorate fully functioning, it is something that we can leverage on how to do funding of this key sector. Digitization has been talked about, climate smart technology, and also there's issues to do with research, boosting of research funding, which can take care of that. Also promote alternative funding, and also we can able to strengthen some stakeholder and intersector coordination. Next slide. Now, in terms of also, we should to focus on spending on easier implementable areas, just to ensure that we improve absorption as one of the issues that have been raised. We can also increase and stabilize sector funding. As also we can explore these PPPs and innovative ways of financing. We can accelerate digitization, e-subsidies, e-extension, and e-commerce, and also promote climate smart technologies, invest in this research and innovation, especially for agriculture development. And we must not take note of this. I think the ministry can have a look at the R&D research financing policy, which is already out, and we can see how we can leverage some of the opportunity that exist to boost and also strengthen capacity for stakeholders. So I think that should be the end of the presentation. Then thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Daktari. Before we go now to Q&A, maybe one thing I've appreciated in the presentation is that we are focused on the SDGs, but I would also propose as KIPRA we include SDG 14, which covers life below water. It's a very key SDG that we also need to explore. The second observation that I've also noted that we can be able to align to the better alignment and of course to our constitution is economic empowerment. We need to ensure that as we implement these programs, our communities need to be empowered. We need to create jobs for our communities. We need to create jobs for our youths. We need to ensure that our communities have access to facilities. We need to create entrepreneurs. And of course, we need to ensure that we develop the skills of our people. I agree with you on the pending bills, and I know my fellow accounting officers, that is one of the key priorities, and you had the CS for National Treasury. It's something that we really need to do to ensure that we also continue to support the entrepreneurs in Kenya. So with those few remarks, I would like now to open the session for Q&A. Colleagues from the 5 institutions, please be ready to answer. And we can start from maybe this side. Yes, madam, please state your name and the question. Be brief, the lady in front.
Thank you so much. All protocols observed. I'll just want to go on with my questions. And my questions touches on a few issues. I've gone through the report, and I would like to take you to page 26. I really want to appreciate the ministry for the good work they are doing. And I want to categorically talk on the issue of fertilizer subsidy. I understand that you want to now expand so that you reach over 5 million farmers. And I think agricultural sector is one of the sectors that we've been pushing for more allocation of resources. And it's clear that we have a very big physical space to increase these resource allocations. But then I feel we can still fix a few things in the places where we allocate resources. First of all, there are a few challenges that farmers are facing on the ground, and I'd like to know how we are going to address them even as we roll out the fertilizer subsidy program. Number one is on the issue of the long queues at the picking points, and also the long distances that farmers are traveling to reach those regions. I understand that the registration is a general format where the farmers register, and then when the allocations come, you get SMS so that you go for the fertilizers. And my question is how are the minority people who are the most affected by poverty and food insecurity reaching out to these services? Because we know that PWDs, they require extra support even to reach those places. How is the ministry coming up with solutions to reach out to these farmers that even if they receive those SMS, they can still be assisted to get those resources? Number two, I have also a counter point on this. Recently, the government launched an agroecology policy. In all the presentations that have been made, I've not heard even the word agroecology. And we are talking about transitioning and having a sustainable agricultural development. And my question is, what is the ministry doing to make sure that we sustainably transition from the current production of synthetic fertilizers, depending on synthetic fertilizers, to agroecology, so that we don't only pass policies and that they don't reach practical stages? That will be wasting our time as Kenyans. Number three, let me talk on the issue of extension services. Currently, we have the extension services that we are receiving, and the ratio of the officers we have is around 1 to 4,000 farmers. Yet the extension policy requires that it is the ratio of 1 to 400 farmers. I would like to also know that even as with the little resources that we have, what are we doing? I understand that we have a project funded by the World Bank called the NAV CDP that has given us young chums or youths to help us in doing extension service. They're called agripreneurs. But again, you realize this is a World Bank funded project. And even right now, we are not even sure if they're doing the work as supposed to be done. So if we are depending on the donor-funded project to support our extension services, then that will be a problem. And we are talking about increasing our production. So as the ministry, please help us know what are the plans you have to make sure that the extension services that farmers are receiving is efficient and we have enough officers. Number three, let me talk about, I want to know how the ministry is closely working with the UN body called FAO, because I understand this is one of the big development partners who are helping us to improve our agricultural sector. The reason is why I'm saying this. FAO recently, not even recently, sometimes ago, around 2004, they came up with another model of improving food security, which is called a human rights-based approach to food security. And as a country, we are very secure on this because Article 43(1)(c) talks about right to food. And in their recommendations, they say that countries to fully overcome issues of food insecurity and reduce hunger levels, we need to adopt a human rights-based approach to food security. Now, the beauty of human rights-based approach to food security is that apart from looking at the elements of production, commercialization, and marketing, we'll go beyond and look into the issue of non-discrimination, participation, and accountability. And let me just mention, give a small clarification on accountability. Accountability means that spaces are given for the farmers, the local farmers at the ground, to give feedback on how they'll want their services to be provided, their prioritized areas. One of the ways that we can use this is through having a GRM committees on the ground. Having worked closely with the NAV CDP project, I understand that there is a provision for committees to be constituted at the county level. One of them should be a grievance and redress mechanism committee. Another one is the social accountability and transparency committee. Please confirm for me as the Minister of Agriculture, because I work closely with those people, do we have those committees on the ground? Because when we're having a human rights-based approach, it means that the people who are receiving those services, they can be able to channel their complaints and grievances so that the services we are giving to them to fulfill the issue of food security is fully realized. Without us receiving, then we may not have a good service delivery. And for the few resources, we need to maximize them and make sure that we have a food secure country.
Thank you so much. You didn't mention your name.
That is so bad. My name is Winnie Ogutu. I work with the Institute for Social Accountability, that is TISA.
Thank you, Winnie. I think the State Department for Agriculture team, you have taken the questions. She has asked 4 questions, very elaborate, which is a good thing. So you'll be able to give the response on fertilizer subsidy, agroecology, policy extension services, and collaboration with FAO. So I kindly request, because this room is full with many people who would want their issues addressed. Let's make it very brief, get to the point, ask at least 1 question each, state your name and the question, so that at least we can give everybody an opportunity to ask their question. With a lot of humility, I request all of you. Winnie, you have set the pace, but I think this pace, if we go like this, we'll not be able to support everybody. And also to note, if you have other questions, you can also put in a memorandum and submit it to us, and then we'll be able to respond. So 1 question. The gentleman.
I have the mic here. I have the mic.
You have hijacked the mic, but proceed.
Yeah, please, I'm very short. Bwana PS, Mr. Mweke, I think another time we were with you at Kenya School of Monetary Studies on this kind of an activity. You capture about 4 funds under this sector. I'm interested to know whether among the 4, this includes the Veterinary Services Fund, which was actually subjected for public participation maybe last year or the beginning of this year. So you give us 4 funds under this sector, but maybe there could be an omission for this particular fund for the veterinary services. Number 2, I want to recommend that under crops, livestock and fishing, could you come with a county-specific program for crops, fishing, and also livestock? I want to give an example. I come from Nakuru. Our cash crop is pyrethrum, and I'm happy maybe the PS for crops is not here. Last 2 years we are getting good support from the ministry. For Kisi, they have bananas. For Meru, they have mira. So could you come with a county-specific program to develop maybe these crops, or even fishing for the areas about Kisumu and the coast? On issues about livestock, I have a very serious concern for the ASALs. So more than what you do, please come up with a specific program to develop the three specific areas I'm mentioning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kindly, let's first go to this row. We'll first do the first round. The gentleman in a gray suit.
Bwana PS, my name is Monda Justus. I'm a chairman Pyrethrum Growers Association of Kenya, and I'm here to voice the concerns of the pyrethrum farmers. Pyrethrum is grown in 19 counties, and specifically I want to link it with what we are doing today: food safety and food security. For a very long time, we have discussed this subject about food safety. are we really serious in containing these harmful pesticides from outside the country in terms of managing the pests and harmful insects on our food? Kindly, let's see what will happen there. Number two, the budget proposal I've seen here on the agriculture sector, especially on the crops, it's actually on the decline towards the year 2030, which again, we don't know how much we would achieve the vision 2030. What is it going to be done in order to reverse this trend? The last one, could we be allowed to raise a memorandum to the relevant Department of Agriculture to petition that pyrethrum should be looked as a special aspect that can increase the issues to do with food security and food safety, and more so that it can sort out about 5 MDG goals which have been discussed with Kipra. Thank you.
Thank you, Justus. The lady next to the cameras.
My name is Jamila Abdullahi. I'm 11 years old. We as children we have a memorandum. We like to present our recommendations. Before I present it to you, let me highlight some. So the recommendation was the government to help farmers by providing agricultural support systems to increase food production and so that they can end child hunger and malnutrition, and also to provide drought-resistant seeds to farmers so as to ensure enough food supply even in different seasons of the year when the amount of rainfall is too low or no rainfall. Thank you.
Oh, let's clap for her.
Thank you.
Jamila, you are the future leader of this country. Good work.
Would love to approach the dais and submit the memorandum.
Absolutely. Come.
Just before we approach the dais, I had a concern on behalf of the children from Elgeyo Marakwet. First of all, a big thank you to the government for the responsive measure they took due to the floods. But we are concerned about our brothers and sisters who they depend on their livelihood on farming. What kind of measures is the sector of agriculture or the entire ministry, the measures they are taking so that to revamp that economic activity around Elgeyo Marakwet? Because our parents depended on those money they used to make in agriculture, and since the floods disrupted a lot of things and the soil might be now infertility, so would love to know what maybe the government is trying to do. And at the same time, what are some of the emergency or other future responsive measures you guys are planning, so as in terms related to climate change, if it's floods, whether it happens? Thank you so much. I think we can approach the dais.
Karibu.
Asante. Naweza ongea kwa lugha ya Kiswahili?
Ndio.
Kwa majina ni Sam Carlos kutoka
Sorry?
Sam Carlos.
Sam Carlos. Hi.
Yes. Ruaraka High School. Nilikuwa tu na jambo moja la kusema. Hii chakula hazikui safe. The safety of the food. Watoto wetu wanakufa kwa sababu chakula zetu haiwekwi kuangaliwa vizuri, na pia zikui safe sana. Venye huko Western kuna ile the girls school yenye watoto after kukula chakula mmoja kaenda, ilituma sana. Ningependa tu serikali iangalie the safety of the food. Thank you.
Thank you. Just let's receive this MOU and then we can continue shortly. So thank you so much for understanding. As the PS is signing, as the chair for the sector, I would request first of all we respond to that, and I'll start, and then we go to this other side. I can see you. Will start with you. So who is representing PS Agriculture? Kindly you can come to the podium so that you can be able to respond to some of the questions. And then as they come, I'll respond to the question by Mr. Washira about specific programs for counties. When it comes to blue economy and fisheries, we know very well we have the Indian Ocean and the inland waters. In the Indian Ocean, we have a project called Kenya Marine Fisheries Program that covers the 5 coastal counties of Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi, Lamu, and Tana River. Some of the key projects we have done there, we have invested close to 1.5 billion Kenya shillings in development of fish landing sites. They cover the 5 coastal counties. They have fish processing facilities, ice making machines, cold storage up to 5 tons a day, jetties, and many other facilities within that. This project started last year, and they should be completed mid next year. These projects should be able to support the BMUs across the coastal counties. We also have plans to expand on that. Number 2, as you saw the presentation by my colleague, we have invested over 3.7 billion in grants to the coastal communities. We have supported the fisher folk even with boats, over 200 boats for artisanal fishermen. We have also doing procurement of deep sea boats, because one of the challenges they lack is going to the deep sea for at least 7 to 10 days, whereby they can be able to get a better catch and get value for market. We have also developed various ports. The other day we completed the Shimoni port in Kwale County, which will be a big port to support the industry, and many other elements we have done in the coastal counties. When you look at Lake Victoria, one of the projects we are doing, of course, is Kabonyo, so that we can be able to promote aquaculture in the lake through cage fishing, because one of the things that the farmers, or rather the fisher folk, lack is the quality seed and feed. So Kabonyo will be able to produce at least 21 million fingerlings a year. So this will help the fisher folk in aquaculture and cage farming be able to get this quality seed on time. And also it will be a center of excellence whereby the farmers and people who are interested in doing aquaculture can be able to go do training. Again, the government has invested 1.5 billion in building landing sites across all the 5 counties in the Lake Victoria. You have Kisumu, Homa Bay, Siaya, Busia, and Migori. So the construction is beginning this month, and it will be done within a span of 12 months. So, and at a cost of around 1.5 billion. Again, we have provided cages to fisher folk, around 150 cages to the fisher folk across those regions, the BMU. What I would like to say, when you look at the BMU fraternity, they are already organized into cooperatives. So this is one of the interventions as government we are doing to ensure that they are supported as government, but they are also entrepreneurs. They grow from fisher folk to BMU and to business people. I think I've been able to summarize about the few programs, but also we have also focused a bit on aquaculture in the other regions in Mount Kenya region, East region, and also we have another program we are working for Lake Turkana, Lake Baringo, and of course Lake Naivasha. So that is the focus for blue economy and fisheries in a summary. I'll request my PS colleague Mweke to answer questions that were asked on special programs in livestock. Of course, the 4 funds by Mr. Washira, and any other question maybe that I have not mentioned, and then agriculture will come in, then we can go for another round. Asanteni.
Thank you very much, Session Chair. I think for the livestock sector, there was just one question on the Veterinary Services Development Fund, which is the VSDF, that we were bringing up to date. Yes, the fund is one of the 4 funds. What we were doing the other day was we were complying, or we were making the existing VSDF fund, which is from 1997. We were making it compliant to the current PFM Act, which came after Constitution 2020. So the old fund was not compliant to PFM. We are now updating it to make it compliant, and that's why we had to go through all the motions with the National Treasury doing public participation on the same. Otherwise, it was an existing fund, and it is included in the 4 funds under our sector. Thank you.
Mr. Stephen will answer on behalf of agriculture the questions that were asked on fertilizer subsidy by Winnie, pyrethrum issues, food and safety. Yes.
So thank you very much. My name is Stephen Rono. I'm from the Ministry of Agriculture. I'll try to answer some of my questions, and I'll also ask my colleagues who are here to assist me in the other ones. But I'm going to answer 2 questions. One of the questions is on the fertilizer subsidy, which was asked by Winnie, and she claims that there's a lot of queues, which you acknowledge. But as a department, we are already having about 103 redemption centers, which consist of the National Cereals Board's depots scattered around the 47 counties. We are also opening up new redemption centers, about 133. This will bring the total redemption centers to 236, which we are hoping that will be close enough to the farmers and they can redeem from there. We are also pursuing the use of cooperatives and farmers groups to be the redemption centers. It is still work in progress, but you're going to do that. The second question she asked was the issues of the extension services, whereby currently it's around 1 to 3,000 or 4,000. And yet the FAO recommended rates is supposed to be 1 to 400 or 500. It's true that we have trained the agripreneurs. They are going to assist to bridge this gap, but you also acknowledge that that one is not going to be enough, because you should remember our first thing is that the extension services is a devolved function. So we are expecting the counties to do that. But even so, because of its importance, we are working with FAO. We are trying to develop an e-extension module that will use the app to answer some of these questions. So on the other questions, which I did not get properly, maybe on the pyrethrum, the MC, maybe you can. I'll ask my colleagues to assist me in that area. But as she's going to ask that question, she also mentioned the issues of the VMGs, vulnerable marginalized groups, who want to access the services, not only the fertilizers. We are also hoping that we have a system called Kiamis, where we have mapped so far about 7 million farmers. And we are going to use that system to identify the VMGs. Also a work in progress, and very soon we shall be able to roll out this. Question.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. I think for pyrethrum, they wanted to know that what are your plans to ensure that pyrethrum is also one of the key crop that can be able to be an economic value to this country. And they have a proposed MOU, just as if I got it right, that can be able to enhance that. So maybe that's something that you need to have a discussion with.
Yeah, I can maybe I can answer, and then if it's not enough, my colleagues, you can help me. Pyrethrum, currently we have the Pyrethrum Processing Company of Kenya. That's the former Pyrethrum Board of Kenya, which was in charge with the processing of pyrethrum. We are seek funding from Treasury of about 534 million to revive that factory. We are also working with we are seeking the support of the Treasury. As you have known now that Kenya Pyrethrum, which had been registered abroad, is no longer, it has been taken up by somebody. So we are trying to get it registered so that we can access the market that we used to have before. So we are working on that. We have a Pyrethrum revival plan, which we have developed, and we are hoping that Treasury, through Shikuku, are going to facilitate, to fund the same, and then we are going to revolve the sectors. I'll ask my members of agriculture, they can add something to that. The microphone, please.
As she responds, Mr. Stephen, pia kuna swali ambayo imeulizwa na Sam kwa Kiswahili kuhusu usalama wa chakula Kenya. Labda unaweza eleza ni mikakati gani ambayo Department ya Agriculture imepanga ili kuensure usalama wa chakula Kenya.
So, Rosemary.
Thank you very much. My name is Rosemary Nyamo. I'm the director, Kenya School of Agriculture. I want to respond to the question by the children. Thank you very much. What is the government doing to support farmers? As a ministry, as a state department, we have always and every year supported farmers with subsidized seed, and especially the drought-tolerant seeds. And now we are rolling out the fruit trees to make sure that we just don't have food security, but we have food and nutrition security. We have also revamped the 4K clubs, and we are rolling out the 4K clubs in all primary schools. So if you are a member of those 4K clubs, please make sure you are registered with our State Department, because we are rolling out trainings and we train the children how to do, good nutrition in their schools. On the pyrethrum question again, the State Department again has banned over 77 harmful products which have been used by farmers previously. So these products, where they are produced, the countries they are produced, if they are not utilized in those countries, they have all been banned in Kenya, just to make sure that we have food security and food safety in our country. Thank you very much.
Asante. So we'll go to another round of questions. We'll start with the gentleman in a blue jacket. And we need to be cognizant because the next sector is coming at 2 o'clock, so we become brief in our questions. Your name and the question. Asante.
Okay, my name is Onesimus Mtinda. I represent Kalawa CVA from Makueni County. My first question is, what is the ministry doing to deal with the issue of boosting local irrigation schemes? For example, the Dwake multipurpose dam. The other question is, what is the ministry also doing or put up in place to facilitate marketing for agricultural produce? For example, in my county, that is Makueni County, we deal with the fruit that is mango. And you find that the cost of producing mango is high. So imagine you are selling mangoes at kgs, 1 kg for 20 shillings, and you are promised that we have a factory that will be catering for that. So I see there is a disaster in that area, because how can you sell mangoes in form of kgs and you are promised that we will be selling them in a good sum so that the farmer can benefit to boost his income? Then the last is a comment on, I'm advising the ministry in regards to subsidized seeds that they provide subsidized seeds for different ecological zones and timely. You know, when you give the farmers the subsidized seeds and it is not time for planting, all dispersed planting. So what is the need for it? Thank you.
You can give to the gentleman at the back and the lady with specs here.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Kipchumba Chiriot. I'm from Elgeyo Marakwet County Social Accountability Network. And actually ours is just a recommendation. And one is about the livestock breeding. We're actually requesting that if the government can intervene so that we can have the gala goats with high market value just across those who are keeping livestock. And number two is about subsidization of the nyota beans, which is very nutritive, and it can be very resourceful to us as a community and also as a country. Thank you.
Thank you. The lady, you had raised your hand, right? Somebody at the back? No. Okay, we can come back to the middle team and that other side.
Thank you very much. Standing on all existing protocols, my name is Dr. Eunice Mchilwa. I'm coming in from Generation Kenya. First and foremost, I want to appreciate the government and the Ministry of Agriculture for the impressive record, approved. You currently, from the presentations, I could see that the approved budget and released budget, the discrepancy, you are spending, the expenditure was over 90%, which is quite impressive if you benchmark that against other African countries. So first of all, I really want to commend the ministry for just getting that done. That simply means that with the activities that you've planned in the medium-term plan, it means a lot of those activities have been budgeted for, and assuming that there is budget discipline, they are being implemented. That is quite commendable. In terms of the quality of service delivery, what is really worrisome, and I saw Kipra also mentioned it, is the State Department of Agriculture. What you're asking for, the requirement and the allocation, the gap is massive. It's very big. So my question is, what alternative financing mechanisms or strategies are you putting in place to ensure that the quality of service delivery is not compromised in 2026, 2027? Because that gap is too big to ignore. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eunice. You can give it to Madam.
Thank you very much. All protocol observed. My name is Agatha Thuo from the Agriculture Sector Network, which is the Agriculture Sector Board of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. So my issue is on agriculture financing, and obviously I want to commend the government and especially the sector for pushing the allocations to some increased level. I think the increase is commendable, but it is still lower than what is the allocation within the region. I think the countries around us are doing much better. I think we are likely to move from 2.1 to maybe 2.3. And some of the countries have actually achieved 4.2% like Uganda. My issue is on agriculture financing, and with the increment, I would like to make a recommendation, because at the moment our farmers are obtaining credit just at around 3.2% from formal institutions. And commercial bank lending to the sector is just around between 4 and 5%, which is just sultry, very, very minimal. And the interest rates are also quite high, meaning that we really have constrained investments and adoption of technology, which is actually a very strong recommendation coming from PS Mweke. I want to make a recommendation on probably how we can enhance increased financing into the sector. And this has been mentioned before, the capitation of an agriculture development fund. And this would work as a blended financing platform, which would attract funding from both the government, from the private sector, and also development partners. And I think now that farmers are getting so little from the alternative sources of financing, perhaps this fund would enhance increased allocations or increased access to finances from the different sources to the farmers. Now, we've talked a lot about the fertilizer subsidy program, and it's a very nice thing. But I think there are some few gaps where we need to bridge so that literally, like it's already been mentioned in the floor, so many other farmers can be able to access that. But again, one of the things that has also happened is that the agro dealers, we have about 18,000, I think 15,000 agro dealers spread across the country. I think it is important that the fertilizer, the last mile distribution of fertilizers by the agro dealers is supported so that the private sector can also be able to plug into the fertilizer subsidy program. The other thing is that fertilizer is important, but it is only one technology. For a farmer to be able to provide an increased productivity, it's also imperative that they have access to the other technologies, including quality seed, certified, and what has been mentioned. And my proposal would be that we expand the subsidy program so that it's able to cover much more than just fertilizer. I think it's important that a smallholder farmer gets a package, not just fertilizer, but a package so that they have good seed, they have good technology, and they can also be able to enhance competitiveness, because one of the challenges that is also happening is that before we buy our products from Kenya, our members are having to go to other places where they can access products at a cheaper price. And I think if we support farmers to improve on technology, including seed, then we'll be able to enhance competitiveness so that we cut down on cost of production, so that we can support our locals first before we can even access products from other regions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Christine Yahama from the Lake Region Economic Bloc. Tea is an economy for Kakamega County, and farmers are not benefiting from the tea. And some of the issues that we are facing is tea farmers are being deducted 2 cesses, but the money is never plowed back to the farmers. We've tried to follow up the money, but nothing seems coming up. And then tea is also planted in other regions, like the central region. And how can we ensure that the bonus is uniform between the country in the tea growing zones, and also the monthly payments, if it can be uniform? And then we are now talking about, we've talked about investing. And one of the things that I took from the Department of Treasury is that they're looking of ways of collecting taxes. Our tea is normally taken to Mombasa at the auction. It's being auctioned at the Mombasa ports. It's really sad. Our tea is being bought by other countries. They sell them direct to the markets, the global markets. You find them making billions at the expense of a farmer who is getting peanuts. How can the Ministry of Agriculture partner with the county governments to address this issue? Especially like a county like Kakamega, we are the leading producers of tea in the Western Bloc. And it's like now even we don't have a factory, and we have the SACCOs and also an umbrella body that the farmers are contributing money towards the tea farming. How can the national government partner with the counties to see how best the county government can be able to commit a certain amount, and then the national governments commit the same, to enable Kakamega come up with their own tea factory? Thank you so much.
The last one you can give to the gentleman next to Christine, then we wrap up because we need to give the team time to respond.
All protocol officers, my name is Mohammed Farah. I'm from Mujia County. Mine is just similar to one of Christine, but on different crop. Mine is on livestock. Our mainstay crop is livestock. All along, I think Christine is only talking about maybe price here, there. These are problems that have lived with us since independence in terms of now livestock prices and market linkages. During the dry spells, like now when we have drought emergencies, all our livestock just swept like that. There's no, at times the government brings in what's called livestock offtake, but it's not much help. So what's the strategy? I think we need now to remove from the all plans, strategies, we go to how we can help these livestock owners, the pastoral farmers. This has been a persistent problem with us since I think the formation of Kenya. And year in, year out, if you may understand, those who have at least maybe had or have a way out from where they are and went to the assault areas, that drought are always there. For now, currently, as we speak, we have a serious drought in the assault areas, especially Ujia, Garissa, and Mandera. And our livestock now at stake. So with livestock, we thank them. They have been standing with us, but still, there's a lot of input that's required to save the livestock farmers. The other one is market linkage has been a problem with us. Always we talk of diseases. We are not able to export this livestock. We need to have, as much as possible, livestock holding grounds that to reduce them to disease-free, so that they're acceptable to other meat consumers in the what do you call the Arab countries, and where maybe outside the Kenya, where we have because most of the livestock from Kenya, I think they're really marketable outside for the meat quality. So we, as a community, I think all along we have even now formed the National what do you call Livestock Council. Recently, we appreciate the president has now okayed, and that has been formed. There are a lot of the way now the presentation we have seen. We have a lot of autonomous agencies here there within the departments, but still, the little region our end. We have said that we have the asset community has been marginalized. We have stayed with that, and we now think ask the government to move out from such ideology. And I think for livestock, the PS, our able PS is here in us. We have also a good number within our community working with the livestock sector. We appreciate, we want to see how this livestock can be helped. One time, the Kenya Meat Commission was very vibrant. I don't know now how those things now have moved. Our livestock, somebody who has maybe 2,000 shots, in a span of 1 month, if the rains are not there, he just becomes a, what they call a drought dropout. He will not know how to start from life. He has never to be school. His only family, his only career is livestock. So mine, and on behalf of the ASAL community, want to see somebody has suggested that we have county-specific strategies. We want to go that direction, and we need at least the address in terms of market linkages and markets for our livestock. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now I will request Mr. Stephen and Madam Rosemary to answer questions on agriculture from Onesmus Market Agriculture Produce. What are the plans? There was a very good feedback from Dr. Eunice and Madam Agatha Duo on agriculture financing mechanisms, how you're addressing the gaps in financing based on the budget. And also there are very good recommendations on blended financing and access to facility. And of course, last mile distribution and smart technology. So you can address that, then PS Mweke will be able to talk about livestock breeding and the question from Mohammed on market linkages on livestock. Also, as you come in, please respond to Christine about the question she asked about tea farmers in terms of value chain, empowerment of farmers and collaboration, and how we can be able to boost the tea crop in the sector. Asanteni.
Thank you very much. The first question on the boosting of the multipurpose dams. This is just to inform the person who asked the question that under the Ministry of Agriculture, we have several projects like NAV CDP and FSRP, which are constructing dams in the counties, because we understand that the counties can be used for the multipurpose functions. And also on the issues of marketing, somebody asked a question on marketing. Marketing, we have a portal called CAMIS, Kenya Agricultural Market Information System, which we are using to promote marketing. But you have to bear in mind that some of these functions are devolved functions. But in our case, we have just developed an app that can be used, but can be accessed by anybody online. And on the question of the expansion of the subsidy to include the seeds, I want to inform the person who asked the question that is an idea that is very alive with us, and it's not only the seeds. We want to extend the subsidy to all farming inputs. So, and another thing also, question that somebody asked on the issues of the funding gap. And by the way, when you are saying we're expanding the subsidy, we are going to use the e-voucher platform for the same. We have redesigned the platform to accommodate other inputs. Initially, we just had the fertilizers, but you are working with Safaricom to expand that mezzanine platform to cater other inputs, including the livestock vaccination. So on the issue of the funding gaps, we are working through a program called LCI, Land Commercialization Initiative, whereby we are working with under the PPP arrangements, whereby idle land that belongs to the government, we are offering it to the private sector to work on it so that we can increase on the production. This is because we have a limited funding gap, as somebody had already mentioned. So we are working with the PPPs to achieve that. On the questions of agricultural financing, we have acknowledged that we are not doing very well. And because we want to attain the 10% level, which was as for the Maputo-Malabo agreement, we are working with our stakeholders. And we have drafted a sustainable financing and subsidy management policies. This is to acknowledge that of our smallholder farmers, only 10% can access the formal credit. So we are trying to, with this policy, we hope that you are going to increase it to 10% or thereby, so as to make these issues of subsidy management. We want to ring-fence some subsidy management. We don't want to, when we need the subsidy funding, that's when you are asking for the county. We have to have a fund whereby they can access it. So I think on the issue of the fertilizer subsidy gap, I've mentioned that we are going to expand from the fertilizers to other farm inputs, including, I think even the PS will mention on the issues of livestock vaccination. That's the first area that we are starting, and we are also expanding to other farm inputs. Now, on the issues of tea, we acknowledge that recently the bonuses has been very low, and there has been a very big discrepancy between the West and the East. And we are actively trying to address that scenario. And what we have realized is that the problem is actually the issues of governance in the factories. You know, the factories are supposed to run as private entities. They are not directly under the government. So it's the issue of governance that has caused all this problem. There's a lot of loans that are being taken by these factories. So when the money comes, instead of being paid to the farmers, they have to service the loan. So we have addressed on the issues of governance. We have worked with our KTDA to ensure that this, the governance, especially of the the managers of the board is taken into issues. As you have heard recently, some of them, they hold meetings each and every other day. So those was one of the issues that has caused this problem. And the issues, Kakamega, I know you have mentioned, but what we are actually pursuing as a State Department is the issues of value addition. Currently, we have one in Kericho, the Timbilil factory, which was done actually partly with the collaboration of the county government, but it is still work in progress. They have requested for some amount of money to complete. They have done the factory, but they have not equipped it. They still need more money. We have requested from Treasury. So that is the way forward in terms of collaboration with the counties. We are thinking of establishing value addition centers which can work together with the Ministry of Trade and Archives, whereby we are going to improve the value of our tea. We have also initiated the issue of direct sales. So after value additions, then we are going to sell it directly abroad. So the issue of going to Mombasa again, it is not going to arise. But you cannot sell directly, of course, if you have not added the value. So I think I've answered most of the question. If there's something I've missed, maybe my colleagues, you can help me. Rosemary? The microphone, please.
Kindly pass the microphone to Rosemary.
So thank you.
Thank you. I'll kindly request our chair to also give feedback and answer the questions on livestock from the various speakers.
Thank you very much, Session Chair. There was a question on from Brian on livestock breeding. I don't know if we have anybody from Kagrik livestock. Did anybody from Kagrik come? Anybody from veterinary services who can answer this question on breeding? Yes. Dr. Gutu, maybe you can attempt to answer that question.
Let me attempt to answer this. My name is Dr. Mary Teresa Gutu from the Kenya Veterinary Board. I am aware that there is a goat breeding center at Kirinyaga that is under the Kenya Animal Genetics Resources Center, and they are currently multiplying seed or semen for goats and planning to distribute that. Just so that we don't miss an answer, I thought I could say that, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gutu. I'll also add, in addition to the goat artificial insemination center in Kirinyaga, for the conventional breeding, I think you can go and get some breeds from our goat and sheep centers. We have one in Naivasha, goat and sheep station, one in Marimanti, Tharakanithi, goat and sheep station that also does gala goats, and another one at Bachuma in Voi, where you can be able to visit our farms and actually get the backs or the breeding stock for breed improvement. There was also a question around from, I think it was Wala from Gawajia, around livestock drought. What are we doing for the drought that is coming? Vaccination, livestock diseases, and market linkages. So on drought, I don't know if there's anybody here from the Directorate of Livestock Production. Yes, maybe Thomas Sagwe can answer that. What are we doing to help our pastoralists during the drought? And how is that supported in our budget? After that, for market linkages, we have a new marketing board, National Livestock Promotion and Development Services. I don't know if somebody from the Livestock Marketing Board is here. Just get ready to answer that question. And on what we are doing for diseases, the Director of Veterinary Services.
Okay, thanks, PS. My name is Thomas Sawe from State Department for Livestock. As a department, actually we have a project drive which is supporting the ASAR in terms of in livestock insurance. We have been doing it. Initially, it was Kenya Livestock Insurance, but it was taken by Drive. So I know Wajir is covered, especially the 21 ASAR counties. So usually through the insurance program, so that the pastoralists can be able to be covered. So that's a World Bank funded project. Probably that's what I wanted to say. That's an insurance for for livestock.
Okay, thank you. Maybe also I can add on that. We are through CAGRIC, our Kenya Agriculture Genetics Resources Center. We are also distributing a lot of genetics for drought-resistant breeds that will help just build the resilience for our animals during the dry season. And within the DRIVE program also, we have a component that is giving concessional loans at under 10% long-term with very good grace periods for anybody who's in the animal feed sector to be able to plant fodder or forage, which they can then store and be able to sell to the pastoralists during the drought seasons. In addition to that, still under the DRIVE program, which is a de-risking program for drought, we do have a digital financial system that we have developed in which we create a wallet for our pastoralists, and we give them a subsidy of, I think, about 7,000 shillings, which is ring-fenced to be able to buy water and buy animal feed in the event of a drought, and that is per pastoralist. So that is a digital system that is also bringing the pastoralists into a financial inclusion system. Anybody from our livestock marketing board on market linkages and what we are doing on that? Dr. Chuma, Honorable Elmi, is anybody here? Okay. On the market linkages, what we did is, because we had a disconnect between demand and supply, like the gentleman from Wajir said, it is true, there's a very, very high demand for our meat, especially from the Middle Eastern countries, and we have actually increased our exports by 45% in the last financial year, but we are still not able to meet the demand because across the value chain we had a market failure where we did not have an organized system to find the animals when they are needed by the market. So we did a route to market study. We found out that the market wants a certain quality of animals. That's why we are doing breed improvement. They wanted animals that are safe, free from diseases. That's why we started the National Mass Vaccination Program, which is the first time this country has ever done that. It's actually the market that asked for that and said that they won't buy our animals if they're not vaccinated. And then they want them in very large quantities. So now we are organizing our pastoralists into farmer-producer organizations or cooperatives. We have been working with NAV CDP on the same, and actually we have built 4 model feedlots that will be run by community cooperatives to ensure that we can maintain the quality that the market wants, we can be able to produce livestock in the quantities that the market wants, and we do those two things consistently. All of that is reflected in the budget that I read here today, and that's the work that our newly formed Livestock Marketing Board is doing. Actually, now I know why they are not here, because they are on a retreat, getting their strategic plan together. That organization is only 9 months old. In terms of disease control, I think my colleague from agriculture mentioned it, that we are running, of course, a mass vaccination system, vaccination program for the small stock, PPR for the cows or the cattle, foot and mouth disease, so that we can get freedom from those diseases, which again helps us tremendously to access the market. As I conclude, there was a question from Onesimus on irrigation and Thwake Dam. While that is not in our sector, it is still relevant. It's within the sector of water, but I think our President Ruto, has been on record saying that now we must invest very, very heavily in water infrastructure, not just for humans, but also for irrigation and for livestock. That's why he is planning on getting an infrastructure fund in which we will invest as a country 1.5 trillion shillings to build 50 mega dams to ensure that we can have millions of acres under irrigation, we can feed our livestock, and we can meet our water domestic needs. Thwake is already an existing dam that had stalled due to lack of funding. I am aware that the President was signing an executive order sometime next week, if not towards the end of this week, to unlock funding from the Africa Development Bank, about 9 billion shillings, to reignite Thwake Dam. So we think Thwake should be complete in the next 1 year or so, but a prerequisite so that we can also dam water that is safe for human consumption. The President again came up with the Nairobi Rivers Commission, which is cleaning Nairobi River right now, so that the water that comes all the way from this ecosystem into Thwake down in Makueni is water that is safe for human consumption. So the Nairobi River is being cleaned right now in preparation for the operationalization of Thwake Dam. Session Chair, I think those are the questions that had been asked in our sectors, and now invite you to come and close our session. Thank you.
Thank you, PS. Kindly let's appreciate our chair. Again, I also wish to appreciate all of you. Let's clap for ourselves for the good session. As I close, colleagues and members of the public, I would wish to request you to submit any other memorandums that we have not been able to address to the Ministry of National Treasury. The second point I want to say is just to appreciate all of us, starting with our chair, Honorable Jonathan Mweke, State Department for Livestock, in absentia, and the team from the State Department of Agriculture, led by PS Dr. Paul Rono, the State Department for Lands and Physical Planning, led by Honorable PS Nixon Coril, the National Land Commission, today here represented by Mr. Timothy, and of course, the team from the State Department of Blue Economy and Fisheries. Also, I want to appreciate all the staff from the other departments, the Commission, state corporations represented here, and of course, the convener of this meeting, which is the National Treasury. I also want to appreciate the team from Kipra, led here by Dr. Joab, the private sector, our development partners, the various institutions in the sector, the civil society, NGOs, members of the fourth estate, and finally, the members of the public for your participation and great feedback on how we can continue to build Kenya together. May God bless you. Asanteni sana. The session now is officially closed. Have a good one.